right. Hi, everyone, again. I'm Sonia Brubaker. I'm the Chief Resilience Officer for the City of Miami, and I lead our Office of Resilience and Sustainability here at the city. And our office works across nearly all of the departments across the city to implement resilience related activities. We also work with external stakeholders such as our surrounding county and cities in the county, as well as academia, nonprofits, and other non-governmental organizations. Now, it's undeniable that climate change is happening in Miami. We experience heat related stresses. We experience floods from rain and also from king tides. So this one, it floods when it doesn't rain, from storms and hurricane events. And the economy is also affected from climate change. So here in Miami, we say that the environment is linked to the economy. They cannot be unlinked. And so we work to build resilience so that residents and visitors can enjoy Miami forever. Because climate change affects everyone. But here in Miami, our most physically vulnerable places are not necessarily the most socially vulnerable. And so we decided a few years ago to be really explicit about what climate justice means for us and how to integrate it into our planning. And we came to think of the term through the lens of communities, community characteristics, and characteristics of people living in a community. So in Miami, climate justice communities are historically underinvested neighborhoods, which tend to be inland, away from the water, that are populated by individuals that are low income, predominantly Black, and recent immigrants. And so these neighborhoods tend to be viewed as less physically vulnerable to climate change since flooding is less common, not always, as you'll see a little bit later, but they are still vulnerable to climate impacts. It's just hurricanes, extreme heat, flooding, pandemic, recession, and their residents are relatively more socially vulnerable than other parts of the city. So here on the slide, the little text at the bottom, you can see some of the inequities that they experienced, are listed here. And again, you'll get a copy of these slides. So we're just going to go back just a few years ago. Hurricane Irma hit the city of Miami in September 2017. And so these are some photo credits from the Miami Herald. On the left is a picture that shows our financial district. And this is a multi-use residential and business area, a neighborhood called Brickell, that's under about 4 feet of water. And this was caused by storm surge from the Biscayne Bay and the Miami River during Hurricane Irma. And then on the right is a picture of a residential area in a neighborhood called Edgewater. It's by the water, it's on the edge of the water. And you can see some ducks here about to take refuge near a resident's car. So this was, top of mind for lots of residents right after, we experienced Irma. And so just that next month, the Miami Forever Bond was immediately passed by voters in November 2017. And so the intent of the Miami Forever Bond, which is a general obligation bond, is to build a stronger, more resilient future for Miami to alleviate some of the risks to residents, the economy, tourism, and really the city's legacy. So the bond is funding $400 million in 5 key areas that align with the city's most pressing needs. And so we'll have $23 million that are going towards roadways, $78 million, which are going to parks, $7 million, which is going to public safety, $192 million, which is going to sea level rise and flood protection, and $100 million, which is going to affordable housing. And so Miami immediately got to work and now has a number of climate resilience plans that we use as a roadmap for our current activities. So there is, starting from the left, there is Resilient 305. And this is a plan that we worked on with the Miami-Dade County and the city of Miami Beach. So the chief resilience officers from all 3 entities, the city of Miami Beach, and Miami-Dade County all worked on this plan together because we realized that we all have equities, and this is a regional approach. And for those of you who don't know, 305 is our area code. And then the next three plans are specific to the city of Miami. We worked on the Miami Forever Climate Ready Adaptation Plan. Then we updated our stormwater master plan to include sea level rise projections. And then we developed our Miami Forever carbon neutral mitigation plan. So the Resilient 305 plan was developed in 2019. And again, the CROs from all three entities continue to meet to this day to implement this plan. And so we really looked at it as kind of three main areas: places, people, and pathways. And so places, we really aim to address kind of place-based challenges by enhancing climate resilience through design and planning, helping to create and connect mobility and housing options, and really safeguard our ecosystems. And the next big focus was our people. We really found that we need to support job and wealth creation, address specific health needs for the most vulnerable, and really prepare and empower our neighborhoods to respond to any disruptions. And then the pathways are how we work together to set common and equitable goals and develop shared resources. So later that year, in November 2019, our city commission and the city of Miami declared a climate emergency, urging the state of Florida and the US government to declare a climate emergency, and requested a regional collaboration on immediate emergency mobilization efforts to restore a safe climate. And so this really kickstarted, along with the 305 Resilient Plan, kind of all the work that we're able to do today. And a city resolution is pretty much legislation which gives kind of laws to our city. So the following January, so just a couple of months later, the City of Miami's Climate Adaptation Plan, Miami Forever Climate Ready, was released. And the idea was to develop a plan of actions to respond to climate change impacts the city is already experiencing and observing, like king tide flooding, that were beginning to occur more regularly and interfere with daily lives for residents in the city. And so there are 5 goals with action areas that we focus on in this plan. First, we really want to focus on having things be data-driven and really human-centered decision-making. And so with that, we're looking at our greenhouse gas inventory and really creating like a central data hub. And then our second goal is to inform, engage, and prepare residents. And so this includes developing resilience hubs, which are hubs within our existing city parks that serve as cooling centers and information centers, as well as providing emergency management training. Our next goal is to protect the waterfront, develop some living shorelines, update our seawall standards so that they're higher. Our next goal 4, is to invest in resilient and smart infrastructure. That's relooking at our stormwater master plan and also auditing our city buildings and facilities and seeing the energy usage that's going on there. And then our last goal is to build adaptive neighborhoods and buildings to improve on-site drainage, increase access to parks. And so we got to work on these actions within the Climate Ready Plan. And one of the really big efforts was to update the comprehensive stormwater master plan. And so this was released in March 2021. And the plan focuses on flood protection, storm surge, saltwater intrusion, challenges to our groundwater levels through using resilient coastal features and green infrastructure to help enhance water quality in the environment and really to protect Biscayne Bay. And so this plan really incorporated sea level rise projections and also looked at kind of a number of challenges that were going on with the city. Like where is it flooding in the city and really looking at why. So solutions were developed through a list of key infrastructure projects, and these infrastructure projects are being funded through the Miami Forever Bond I talked about earlier, and also through grants that we're applying for through the state of Florida and the federal government. And so here are two projects that are in the plan. They're in different districts. They are different kind of dollar figures. It's a little bit small on my end. It looks like the one on the left is $36 million, and it's really looking to reduce flooding and have some right-of-way improvements, including new and upsized stormwater inlets and pipes, exfiltration trenches, gravity drainage wells, injection wells, and a new stormwater pump. And then also the plan shows that the total property value that's protected, as well as the number of properties that are impacted. And I think the most important thing kind of to view from these visuals is that the pictures at the top that show the blue with the flooding are kind of what it looked like at the time of the plan that was developed. And then the pictures at the bottom show what the projects are going to do to help the flooding in that area. And so one reason why these projects were picked and the projects in the plan were picked is that if you look at the very dark blue at the top of the pictures, you see that these are typically residential areas, and if somebody is living on that street, there really is no way to get out when it floods. And so that was a big kind of indicator and metric that was used when selecting projects is really the quality of life and the impact to life that people were having.
Hey, Sonia, just one question. Are any of these grants available for private corporations in the regions?
That is a good question. One of the grants that we received was the Florida Resilient Grants, and I'd have to look at the eligibilities for that. I'm not sure if it's available for private, but I do know that municipalities will apply for them, and when they receive them, they're able to hire consultants.
So I think the key thing is we're hearing from Miami, the EPA. We're going to hear from Dallas. All the tremendous initiatives being done by the public sector, as well as state, federal, even local grants, incentives available. Each situation is different. There are various jurisdictions. Please use AngelBeat as a central conduit so we can help manage things. The other key takeaway is when you hear these comments, and even with Susan right afterwards, you understand if you've got a big plant, you need to look at these initiatives. If you're in charge of your own facilities, you need to look at the same approach they're doing. I can also tell you on a related note that insurance companies are increasingly looking at maps, climate change projections in assessing your rates and your premiums you're going to pay. And if you're not adapting to that, suddenly you're getting a huge bill that you need to adapt to, because they're thinking that what used to be the 100-year flood is now like the 3-year flood, which is happening, unfortunately, so rapidly. So it's great to hear what Miami is doing. And it's also relevant if you're in a government or if even you're outside of South Florida or Dallas, to speak with your own organizations, encourage them, and most of them are doing similar things, see what they're doing, and also learn from these various initiatives. So if you're part of a large-scale organization, you want to take the same steps yourself. All right, let me let you finish up there, Sonia. Just want to interject quickly.
All right, no, that was great. Thank you. All right, so later that year, so November 2021, so really just last year, we released the Miami Forever Carbon Neutral Plan. And this is the plan to substantially reduce greenhouse gases by 2035 for a goal of carbon neutrality in the city of Miami by 2050. But really the first thing we did was a baseline evaluation of our greenhouse gas inventory for both municipal functions and community functions using 2018 data. And we found that 43% of the emissions come from off-road vehicles in Miami, but 35% come from commercial energy and 20% come from residential energy. So taking that information, we developed the carbon neutral plan and centered around green goals. So that's getting around Miami, renewable energy, electric vehicles, energy efficiency, and a new green economy. And so we really looked at kind of what our metrics were kind of in our inventory. And that was the first one that we had done. So it really is our baseline. But we looked at, okay, getting around Miami, let's develop a bike master plan. Let's have a goal for our trolley programs. Let's for renewable energy, let's look at new buildings being solar ready, and let's look at different financial incentives. Can we electrify our city fleet? Can we develop a citywide EV master plan? Energy efficiency, and we're looking at building efficiency, and that's one thing that we can really make a change in the city, and looking at our performance standards in buildings. And then for the new green economy, can we develop a regional strategy in green procurement? And so these are some of the actions that we are working towards now. And again, our city commission passed additional resolutions to help support our goals and our efforts to reach net zero by 2050. So one was on Earth Day last year, in April 2021, and the other in November 2021 after our carbon neutral plan was released. So again, this is what helps us be able to get all of this great work done. And now it's 2022, and it's important for us to track our successes that we planned for. So each plan has goals and activities that are tracked. Some of them cross over and align, some of them don't. But we make sure to track them all. So we're currently working on BE 305, and this is reducing energy in buildings throughout our city. We're working on Keep Safe Miami, and so this is looking at conserving energy and water and affordable housing throughout our city. Our stormwater projects, with our plan, we're improving drainage and reducing flooding events. With our greenhouse gas inventory, we are capturing our reductions through the years. We are working on our next kind of inventory and updated inventory. I talked a little bit earlier about resilience hubs and parks and in our parks, and that's establishing cooling and information centers within our existing parks throughout the city, and that includes expanding Wi-Fi access as well. And that's for when a disaster hits, but also before a disaster comes. We're working on waterfront projects, looking at creating pedestrian walkways near our waterfront and public spaces. We're just starting and conducting a vulnerability assessment, or beginning to kind of go through the process to start a vulnerability assessment, I should say. And that's going to be looking at our critical facilities and our assets in the city to protect them from a flooding event. We're also working on the Back Bay project, and that's working with the county and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to ensure that storm surge flooding from a major hurricane doesn't inundate our city. And we're also looking at sustainable materials, establishing voluntary measures for vendors to use sustainable materials at events so that plastics don't end up in our waterways. And this work continues to be needed. This is a picture of Biscayne Bay breaching a seawall in our financial district, the very first picture that we saw that was flooded. But this picture was taken just last month. And this was due to king tides in the area. King tides are when it's called sunny day flooding. It floods when it's not raining. It's just based on the tides and the moon. But it was coupled with the bands of Hurricane Andrew. So this was back just September 2022. So this work continues to be needed. And here's my contact information. If you have any questions later, either contact Angel Beat or send me an email later.